sign to come on. Da, 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 da.
I forgot it.
Yay, we're live. Hey everyone, it's Kristi. Welcome to a hangout that I thought was happening on Ted's channel, but turns out it's happening on mine. And that's okay. I'm pretty good at setting these things up, and so we've moved it over here. But I'd like you to welcome a great guest and sort of following along in the discussions of comedy. Here today with me, I have Ted Shiress. So is that the correct pronunciation? Am I putting the emphasis on the right syllable?
Perfect. I don't know why they gave me such a tricky name. Kind of cool, really.
Yeah, so Ted, you are someone on YouTube who does comedy. I have to say, you have a great sense of humor, especially when I see you do a lot of quips on Facebook, and you're so witty and your wordplay is so enjoyable. So yeah, I wanted to know a bit more about you and your influences. Like, what is it about comedy and performing comedy or making jokes? Kind of like, how did you come to it? Who are your influences? Yeah, give us some of your background.
I guess I always loved the blues music. The very kind of emotional, emotion-driven, and growing up, I would have loved to have become a blues guitarist, but obviously, look at these, that ain't gonna happen. But to me, blues is about taking problems and turning them into art. And in a way, that's what my comedy is.
Right. So who are your you growing up, who are your influences, or at least the people whose comedy, I mean, because I enjoy, I can enjoy Michael McIntyre and, maybe even Al Murray, the pub landlord, but the people I seek out are people like Stuart Lee. I like Dara O'Brien, so when it comes to comedy you like versus comedy that maybe influences you, what were some of your people you're fans of and who influenced you?
Obviously, I'm a huge Stuart Lee fan. Everyone is in my circle. Sometimes on stage I hear a laugh where I don't expect it, but that happens so much I sussed out what to say. That's a big Stuart Lee kind of move. But Stuart Lee likes to go on a lot, and that's one thing I can't afford to do, not being very clear, so at least I can never be too much like Stuart Lee. I've got a wall.
Yeah, that's true. At least, some people are probably so influenced by him. He talks about being influenced by someone who would treat hecklers as actually asking legitimate questions. And that's how he dealt with the heckle. He's like, no, you don't understand. Let me explain the joke to you. And you're right. I think that's a great way to do it. But even if when you want to be influenced by it because of your circumstances, you can't just do Stuart Lee. You have to do Ted. Doing a version of that.
Ted with an element of Stuart Lee.
Yes. Yeah. So Stuart Lee, any other comedians that you particularly obsessed over? Any what is it? Peter Cook.
Because of Bill Hicks. He kind of does the rock and roll thing, but he's the kind of like a rock and roll comedian.
Oop, rock and roll comedian, yeah. So when did you first start to think about actually doing comedy? Is it something that in your family you've always been a bit of a jokester, and so people started saying, "Oh, you should take that act, put it on stage," or was it something that it was like getting out of your comfort zone and trying something new? How did you end up comedy?
Yeah, well, I always made a lot of jokes around my friends. I like to own the word spaz, and it doesn't bother me. I enjoy making people feel a bit uncomfortable at my expense. I don't care. So I remember I started going to comedy nights at uni and was way too rowdy. There was one night particular that me and my mate were sitting by the stage and we were giving the compere lots of jib, and he asked us to write questions in which he would read out. So me and my mate submitted the question: who put the eccentric hippie and the loudmouth spaz next to the stage? And I remember Dan, the compere, who's now one of my best friends, standing up there reading out. Who put the eccentric hippie and the... Oh, I can't. I'm sorry. And me, by my Dave forgot. Read it. Because he had no idea we wrote it. So he felt very uncomfortable. But the headline comedian, so he has a problematic name, Ray Peacock, but he's now using different name, because one thing I talked about on my channel recently is that a lot of comedians have finally come back to think, yeah, rape jokes aren't that funny, but at the time he was called Ray Peacock, obviously a joke in the name. He comes out saying, good evening, how is everyone? Then he turns about to me and goes, and how's my little friend? Oh, the entire set was just us going backwards and forwards. Everyone else in the room was so uncomfortable, but we loved it. One guy shouted out, hey, stop it, get back to your material. He said, be quiet, I'm trying to talk to over here. That was a spaz face.
Right. So you were in, yeah, oh, sorry, go ahead. I didn't want to cut you off. Go ahead.
So after that, I just thought, yeah, I'll give it a go.
Yeah, so that was actually a great segue, I was going to say. So tell me about when you decided to go on stage. What was the first material that you tried out, and what's it been like, your journey of performing comedy?
My first set was basically anecdotes, things that happened. I didn't script it, really. It was just, I regularly, but ableist people are treating me like I don't understand something. Well, all I want to do is get in the bar. Like, come on, I haven't got time for this. I haven't got a carer. Let me in. Just talking about the people saying you shouldn't be out alone. well, you shouldn't be a stupid man.
Right. So there's a lot of personal experiences and funny stories from your own life. But then your material, I take it, changed over time, right?
Yeah, I think after a while with just anecdotes, there was too much space between the gags. Beginner's luck. First few gigs, lots of friends there. Everyone loved me, no matter what. But then I began to notice these big spaces with no laugh. So I began to think, oh shit, I should really fill these with something. I become to realize the trouble with telling anecdotes is if the story's already funny, you don't want to change it because that would defeat the purposes. But then it might take you 5 minutes to get to the funny bit. No one at the amateur comedy night wants to listen to a special needs guy go on for 5 minutes without making a single joke.
Right. So you had to find ways to speed it up and get to that punchline. And what did you do? How did you handle that in terms of reducing the material down so that you could get from that joke to the setup to the next joke?
I guess I started to structure my sets bit like a sandwich. Like at the top you get some bang one-liners. Open a show, a guy with CP drops a one-liner no one's expecting. My standard opener is, yo, looking at me to say, if this guy's a character act, let's fucking kill him.
Whoa.
That normally makes it like, whoa.
Yeah.
This guy's a bit different. Let's zone in. And I do a couple more kind of punchy one-lines like that. Then I'll expand a bit.
Right. And so, and when you first do a joke like that, do you often get like people don't know how to take it? And then you just kind of plow through and you do another one and you keep doing them until they start realizing, yeah, it's okay to laugh at this. You're meant to laugh at this.
I remember one gig I did about 3 jokes and I could see they didn't get me. It was really awkward. Then suddenly my 4th joke, I just felt something kind of click. And they're saying, yeah, we get him now. We're gonna enjoy it.
Yeah, because sorry, I don't want to cut you off. I was just agreeing with you.
So sometimes on a good night, it takes 1 joke. Other nights it takes about 4, but luckily I have 4 or 5 punchy jokes at the start.
Right. So you've learned too, as a process of going up on stage and performing too, that, like the punchier jokes does that then allow you to do a bit longer stories later on once people are kind of in the groove and are getting your sense of humor and where the laugh lines are meant to come?
Yeah, definitely. The middle was where I do my chunky. But for me, it can't be too long. Like, for me, a long bit is only no more than 5 minutes long enough for me.
So you can do the shorter ones, you can do slightly longer ones, but you're not going to go into like a Stuart Lee kind of like just rambling on about the same thing over and over and over again. Right.
I use a sentence to wonder how people would react if I got up on stage and did an old style Stuart Lee monologue. He's got better, or he's changed in recent years, and it's more refined. But up until about Carpet Remnant, well, 2012, he did very long, rambling, pushing the boundaries, but in a different way to most comedians.
Yeah, I think in his last BBC series, didn't he do like the last episode was just him making noises like eating into the microphone for like 10 fucking minutes. This is so annoying. I am not into ASMR.
It's annoying, but it makes you laugh at the same time.
Yeah, there's this weird, he talks about in an interview about there are some groups like improvised jazz, I can't say improvisational, whatever it is. But yeah, when you improvise jazz, and it can be kind of squeaky and edge, and it can sort of like be on the edge of being uncomfortable. You know, not entirely uncomfortable, but kind of uncomfortable. And he talks about how he wants his comedy to kind of be in that zone. And when he does that, like 10 minutes of just making noises or just banging something out by, you know, or some other noises, you know, it's meant to go to the point of comedy and then past the point of comedy. And then because it's so far past the point of comedy, it starts to become funny again. You know, it's like pushing through. You know what it's like? It's like, when you start to feel too full to eat anymore, but and then you get dessert, and dessert is like a whole, like, oh, it's sort of uncomfortable, but I can still go. And yeah, he's really good at finding that being almost irritating, but you don't turn off, I think. But anyway, we aren't here to talk about Stuart Lee. We're here to talk about you. So getting back to your comment. Oh yeah, sorry, you go ahead.
Final Stuart Lee thing, because I love him so much. Have you seen the routine about the place on the way to Scotland called Shilbottle? And there were 10 signs, and some changed each sign to read shit bottle. And it's like the first one made me laugh. The next two laughed again. The following three bored the shit out of me and became angry. But by the eighth, I was laughing my head off, and that inspired my comedy.
Yeah. Yeah, that's interesting. So yeah, I think you're right. That's sort of going over the edge. So when it comes to that, you talked about your initial stuff on stage, and then you have an audience to react to and with and interact with. So doing comedy on YouTube, how is it different? Like when you want to be funny on your channel, what are the different considerations, or are there different considerations for how you do your jokes?
Well, I quite like going on rants about the people in bars who like say, no, you're not coming in. That always worked on stage, but when I did it on YouTube, it didn't work as well. Like, one of my best routines on stage is about my first date with my ex-girlfriend who was disabled, and I remembered going to the disabled room and suddenly thinking, shit, if I make a mess, she's gonna find out. I can't handle this much pressure. Then I make a joke. Hang on, gay people must feel this on every date. And if gay people can cope, I can. And on YouTube, that didn't really go down well, but when they do that on stage, it's one of my strongest bits.
Right. Yeah, that's interesting, isn't it? The way that in a live event, when you're with an audience, you can set things up. There's an interaction. And also there's the discussion about you go to a comedy club for comedy, or you go in knowing that there are going to be boundaries pushed. And that's not to say you wouldn't be offended, but you got to go in knowing what it is. You have expectations. You're going in prepared to either laugh or to give somebody a hard time and be like, I am not going to laugh at this. That's very British. But on YouTube, you don't know who's going to come across your channel. You don't know who's going to come across your content, and you don't know to what extent they understand where you're coming from or even see it as comedy, as opposed to just being a dick or something, or being a creep in that way.
I suppose on stage, as I said, by the time I get to the long bits, everyone knows who Ted is, so they understand why he's feeling that way. But on YouTube, people watching my videos for the first time, some of them think I'm a fake.
Really? People think this is an act?
Yeah, I think someone commented on the first hangout that did with you. I would thought Ted was a parody trying to take the piss out of you social justice people, but now check him out. He was thinking, for fuck's sake.
I guess there are just a lot of jaded, cynical people
on
YouTube. That's crazy. So yeah, talk if you wouldn't mind. So you've got this sort of two dynamics. You've got the live dynamic and how not only the audience will react, but the way you can interact with the audience and make fun of them or bring them in or whatever. YouTube, of course, is just you and a camera. And you have to think about how it might sound for people coming in. You might have to change things a little bit. But you mentioned before we went on air on the difference between sort of doing comedy from a social justice advocate perspective, or at least being someone who considers themselves not, for social justice, versus someone who's more on the anti side, and the differences between what is considered funny by the audiences of different people.
Yeah, well, I suppose the other side, as it were, like to say we don't understand irony. Sometimes you can say things and not mean it. And for my experience of discussing comedy with our social justice clique, as it were, we do very much understand that. We just know when it's not, and I act, and they genuinely mean it. And I think one of the problems comedy was like 10 years ago, a character could make a crass comment about women, and that would seem so ridiculous. Everyone will know it's a character, but now there are people on YouTube actually saying that shit, and they actually have 200,000 subscribers, and it's fucking scary. Like, do you know the comedian Rich Hall?
The American Rich Hall?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
I've seen him on panel shows. I see him more in British shows than I see him in American shows. Yeah. And he's also very kind of dry humor kind of guy. Very deadpan.
Have you seen his alter ego, Otis Lee Crenshaw? He's a failed country singer, obviously. And he did one song called Women Called It Stalking. So about the only women, I'm only trying to say hi to them, admittedly behind a bush, and now I'm with the police. What's happening? And that's funny, you know, it's a caricature of a redneck being ridiculous. But now there are people genuinely meaning that, so it will be harder, even just 10 years on, to do things like that and be comfortable. No one will be there going, yeah, I agree. Why do women call the police when they're hiding in a bush?
Right. Yeah, it's and then I want to kind of unpack that a little bit more if I could. Yeah, the whole difference between someone whose channel is ponage and people taking pleasure in watching other people be humiliated versus kind of comedy that pokes fun at, it seems like, not particular individuals, but either the situations or a mistaken view. I just think that there's a difference between bullying that people take enjoyment in and actual humor. I think they're kind of two different categories.
Exactly. I love Curb Your Enthusiasm. There's a lot of awkward situations where Larry accidentally said the wrong thing in front of a group of African American people. And you know that's the whole point of the show. Someone who can't control his impulses and ends up blurting out things that are socially unacceptable. That's what makes it funny.
Yeah, I'm also because I wasn't in the States for Curb Your Enthusiasm, and it sort of passed me by. But my parallel, of course, is Ricky Gervais in The Office,
Yes.
playing, and that was definitely a case where, yeah, his character of David Brent said terribly, horribly, politically incorrect things. But the point of it is that he was the joke. Like the fact when he was talking about his dog, calling his dog Nelson Mandela, and then like sort of wanting to take pride in this sort of racial, oh, look at me being so racially aware. And that was the cringe. It was like his performance of trying to earn status by displaying, oh, look at, I'm going to do this thing that will get me noticed. That's the cringy bit. And so the object of the comedy is not just, it's the kind of person and the kind of thinking that represents, which is quite different from ponage videos or takedown videos where you take people out of context, or you just have Triggly puff on a loop, or the same three women that you've been using in videos since 2013 or 2012, and it's not meant to say anything wider. It's just meant to go, hey, it's meant to be like a Nelson, ha ha, and that's it. Like, that's as deep as it goes.
Yeah, I think that's the trouble with the whole anti-crowd. they take things out of context, they twist some odd things so much, and if you're not aware of what social justice people actually believe, you might watch their videos and think, yeah, these social justice people do go too far, don't understand what a joke is, and they can very easily captivate that audience just by taking things out of context. I didn't watch it, but I noticed Rebel Media did a new video called Why SJWs Hate Curb Your Enthusiasm. And I was thinking, well, I'm in the social justice clique. I like it. Most of the people I talk to in the clique like it. What the fuck are you talking about? But I think some people who don't look at the source will actually believe that and think, oh, I'm not for social justice. They don't understand this kind of humor, and it's a dirty game, but I think it works, and that's why shitlords are so popular.
Do you think that it's harder to do clever comedy than just poking funny at people comedy?
Definitely, ponage videos are so easy. You just download a video that you can interject at wherever and say something, almost anything, and some people will laugh and make it sound like they're saying something much worse, which is what our friend Bearing does all the time.
Now, for you, do you find that, is it important to you to be a comic with CP? Or is there, because maybe when you started, you said there was a lot of anecdotes, so it was a lot of things about your life, but do you want to, is it like being a representative of, hey, you know, cerebral palsy people, if you see us, you know, you say hi at the bus stop or whatever, you know, it's like it's, or do you not want to be like the, you know, unofficial representative of all CP? You just want to be Ted, who is a guy with CP, but you're Ted and you're a comedian, and that's more of, is that something in terms of your identity that you wrestle with at all?
Comedy is funny. In comedy, the subject isn't always the main thrust of your identity almost. I do talk a lot about CP, but I talk about it in a way a slightly cynical comedian would, rather than a member of the disabled community. And I've noticed a lot of disability groups have been a bit raw about having me perform. There are obviously a lot of disabled people I found that have enjoyed what I do, but I haven't found them from a disability group, if that makes sense.
Yeah, definitely. It's sort of you know, because it sounds like, you know, from what I've heard and what I've seen of your comedy, it can be a bit edgy, a bit dark, and yeah, they're not going to be put on for the Christmas Christmas dinner thing, you know, like with the families and everyone, like, hey, let's bring on Ted to give a 10-minute set. You're like a comedy club guy. You do the club scene. You know, you're not doing like, you know, you're not doing touring, you know, advocacy groups doing charitable stuff. You know, your stuff is for a general audience. And it's also, like you said, you know, you are the subject of a lot of your comedy. So, of course, CP and disability issues come out of that organically rather than you catering, it sounds like, to people on the basis of them being disabled as well.
Definitely, you play with what you've got. Like, that comedian, Ian, whatever his name is now, used to have that problematic name I mentioned before. When I see him at a gig, he started greeting us like, Ted, shh, there might be real ones in tonight. Oh, boy. The way I cast myself on stage, I could see why someone might think it's okay to make a joke like that. I laugh.
Right. But, you know, what everyone finds funny, of course, is very, you know, like some people, as you say, find Bering funny. Other people, like us, you know, find Stuart Lee funny, for other reasons. Yeah. So when it comes, do you have a preference? Do you like doing, let's say, you know, more comedy stuff on your channel, or is it a live audience that really is, there's no substitute, or are they both good but in different ways? When it comes to, communicating your comedy, what medium do you prefer, if any?
As I said, the trouble with anecdotes don't really work on YouTube, or at least I found. Weirdly, I still have 2 or 3 people saying, I love your rants about ableist people, but just 2 or 3. And as I said, annoyingly, I picked up the chronic cough, so I'm not gigging so much. So I'd like to do more of those kind of things on my channel, but I've got to work out a way of making it sell better, almost.
I know you do a lot of work to subtitle your videos. You're basically making it easier for abled people who are disabled to understand you. You're basically, it's like guardrails for the abled, you know, like, hey guys, I know not all of you are gonna follow along, so here's some crutches, right? Here's the text underneath. Because I do think, like, listening to you, for me, like, don't take this the wrong way, it's like listening to Shakespeare, in that it takes me a little while to get the rhythm of your speech. You know, I've seen you more than anyone, you know, you do work to subtitle your content to kind of help people translate and to tune their ear to TED Talks.
Yeah, definitely. But looking in the analytics, I noticed still only like 20% view my videos with subtitles. It's like, what the fuck? You're complaining, and you don't use them.
I think that should be how you do a little clip that says, there are subtitles provided. If you can't understand me, fucking use them.
Exactly.
That's why I put in all that work, you assholes.
I typed that with 1 finger, so subtitling a 5-minute video takes me 2 fucking hours. Look, I've done it just for you.
Yes. Yeah, it's like it should be 100%. You should like put the 100% caption challenge. Like, guys, make it worth my time. Everybody, before you do anything else, hit closed caption and then hit play.
Exactly.
Yeah. Sorry. Sometimes you pause and I jump in, like I just did.
Yeah, I just said exactly, kind of agreeing with you.
Yeah. So going forward, well, I guess before we wrap up, because actually I don't know if we started on time, but we've been going for I think about 45 minutes or close to, and I know you wanted like 30 minutes to an hour.
I don't mind.
Oh, okay. I've been on an IKEA run, so I actually feel very lazy on YouTube because I don't feel like I've been doing many videos, but what I have been doing is completely reorganizing my house. So I made a trip to Mecca, the sort of the modern Mecca of IKEA yesterday, and now I got to go back because I got the wrong size of something. But yeah, the time has gone by really quick. But before we get off the air, I want to make sure I talk to you a little bit about the you've talked in comments I've seen on Facebook and on Twitter, I think, more about the disabled community of YouTube. And that's not a corner of YouTube I'm familiar with. And I was just wondering if you could talk a little bit more about maybe some content creators that you could, shout out, or ones that have influenced you, or ones that you communicate with, or what you would like to see the community be. So basically, just kind of riff on of your YouTubing experience.
Really, not a lot. I haven't had successful interactions with many of them. I don't know if that's just because I'm smaller than them, or as I said, I'm edgier, which I accept. Like, I know the modern view of disability is to look at it as a good thing. The social model, it's an identity, it's society that disables me. And I used to be very much like, no, that's bullshit. I'm disabled, my body doesn't work, that sucks. And I'm slowly veering more towards the social model, especially seeing how that it sucks line of thinking leads you to some very dark places like shitlord territory. The first time I saw like Milo talk and heard him say, yeah, being gay is a bit of a drag. At first I thought, okay, I'll listen to this, but it wasn't until I really got what he stood for I finally realized, no, you are just bigoted, reactionary scum. So seeing what that kind of thinking can lead to has driven me more to maybe it isn't so bad to talk about being disabled as a positive part of my identity. I'm still not 100% there, but Milo Cole helped me shift a lot further to the other side.
Yeah, I think it's very easy to as an able-bodied person to just exist if you don't have friends or family who are impacted. You sort of walk around in this bubble where you don't think about wheelchair access, don't think about the width of a door to get into a room, and whether or not somebody, there's a lot of blindness there. And I think one can always do anything too much and talk about it too much, but also to present a disability as a different way of existing, as opposed to constantly a source of pity. You know,
Yeah.
I mean, the whole point is to make people, to empower people, so that they can have the lives that they want to live, just like everybody else, right? And that's what I think, at least when it came to doing things in the States, when we had protection for people with disabilities, the idea, and I think it exists in the UK too, from my memory, it's reasonable accommodation. If you can reasonably
Yeah.
accommodate what they need to do their jobs, then that is an expectation, because it's not their fault, and also it's a reasonable accommodation to overcoming a barrier, and then they can do it. So like how the social interacts with the individual, but you need the flexibility of attitudes, as opposed to saying, no, you know, oh, that person has a disability, so they won't be a good fit here. Like, well, can you reasonably accommodate them? Because, you know, they have the talent as well. So getting that sensitivity out there, I think, I just, to me, what I look at is the University of Essex campus that I attended, and it was built in the 1960s, and it was apparently built by architects who never even considered someone might have a broken leg or need to be on crutches, because it is the least disabled access place I've ever seen in my life. And what people in the 2000s, in the 21st century, a friend of mine had to literally go, like, because the campus was built into sort of a hill. And the way they handled it was they had a square, and then they would have stairs and another square, and then stairs and another square. But because of the way that it was built over time, by adding squares, you know, there was square 1, then 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, they had elevators that would only intersect on certain levels, right? So if she wanted to get to a certain building, she actually had to go in and downstairs to where the parking garage was, and roll around on her electric, put my hand, roll around on her electric wheelchair to get to a different part of the parking. And this was dodgy stuff. I mean, it was not very well lit. It was not like a lot of cars parked there. It was mostly university vehicles, because it was directly under the building. And then, you know, go up to where her classroom was. It took her 20 extra minutes every
Yeah.
single time we had a class to get from her living quarters to her classroom. And, you know, it's not like anybody took that into account for the impact that would have on her and her day and her learning and how much studying she could do. It was just completely invisible. And it was because I was her friend and I did that trip with her that I saw it. And then I became outraged on her behalf, you know. But unless, again, I think for people who live in a bubble without those sorts of experiences, we might not see the important role that the society, whether or not there are curb cuts, whether or not there's an easy access disabled toilet, or you have to go to a different building to find the one disabled in a Victorian building. What happens if there's like I had a classroom that ended up taking place, and there was literally no elevator in the building, because these are old Victorian buildings, and the poor student had to go up on their crutches 2 stories to get to the classroom. I'm like, we have to change this. It's ridiculous. So I think there's a lot of awareness, and I'm sorry, I'm kind of gone off in a rant here and taken over your stream, but there's a lot of things here that in terms of representation and visibility that are actually really important on an education level for people who don't have a daily experience with somebody who is facing these challenges.
It's like I'm on the PPI outreach group for Cardiff University. They always say just having someone with a disability feed in about what we need makes things so much better.
Yeah, I know it doesn't seem like a takes rocket science, but honestly, if you're an able-bodied person, you can't just, like, what, you're gonna borrow a wheelchair? Like, roll around for a day and think, oh yeah, I can reach the faucet. That's my job done as an engineer, you know? Like, no, you got to talk to the people who use the services in order to get a proper assessment of whether or not they're fit for purpose.
Like a toilet with a wheelchair symbol on it doesn't necessarily mean that toilet's accessible, but so many places think, yeah, we haven't disabled toilet, it's there. Even though you go in using it as a fucking storage cupboard and you can't even use it. It's like, well, it's not accessible then.
Yeah. So moving on from that, about your channel and your comedy going forward, what are do you have like short-term goals or long-term goals, or is it you just kind of making it up as you go? What's the future hold for you, Ted?
Well, I have my weekly Ask a Spike Saturday thing. Thinking of it now, I might download this and frame it as an extra long Ask a Spike Saturday. No, I have to apologize because this means now you will be featured in 3 videos to us. One of my groin cam videos because that's where I put my phone on my lap because I can't really hold it. So obviously, being the perverted fuck I am, I call all my phone video groin cam. So now Kristi Winters has been featured in 3 ass videos and 1 groin cam. I'm very sorry.
That's okay. I'm happy to be there. Yeah, so your channel, it's been growing slowly, but it's been growing and you're getting a dedicated fan base?
Yeah, definitely. Now interacted more with you guys. We've talked about similar things. I really enjoyed it. And as I said, it's nice that in our clique we have some pure members and some more sardonic members. I think it's important to get the message out that you can still be a bit of an asshole and be for social justice. So I think it's good that we've got some assholes as well as some more overtly kind people in our group.
I think you just came up with your t-shirt slogan, like for social justice, but still a bit of an asshole.
Exactly. Yeah.
There you go. That's for your merch store. You can work on that. Get that on Redbubble. And what about the... Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I think it will sell.
Anything with when you say you're an asshole and it is a t-shirt will probably sell. Okay. So with the long-term cough, you're kind of taking a break from gigging, but is that something that you want to get back to? Is it something you feel like it's important for your comedy, or are you quite happy to do things just on YouTube in a more controlled setting?
But annoyingly, ever since I stopped, the mainstream have featured more, been able to feature more disabled people being assholes. Like, my beef used to be they didn't want anything to do with me. But last December, I was on one of those BBC Three things not to say to someone with cerebral palsy. And I admit the guy I was with, he was really cool, but very like positive, and I felt for contrast I had to go in the complete opposite direction. I was mega awesome. They left everything in. But there's the last leg on Channel 4. Have you seen that?
I have actually, and actually that was one of the things I was going to wrap up with, which is that I have definitely noticed there is more representation of people with disabilities than I perceive, at least in American media. Obviously, I don't live there, but I was actually just thinking too, because I'm going to be very stereotypical. I'm a huge Strictly Come Dancing fan, and so I missed, because I have to watch it on YouTube. You know, I kind of get the catch up and the clips and things because I can't watch it live from Germany, but. So I was watching the videos and watching the various contestants, and I don't know all their names because there was like 20 of them, and I'm not immersed in British culture, but there's the para-athlete, and I didn't realize, like, in his first dance, he was wearing a shoe. And then I was like, oh, this guy's okay. You know, he's pretty good. And because it was like week 1 or week 2 or something I was watching. And then the next one, he had his blade attached to the base of his leg, and he was like doing the cha-cha with this blade on, and I was like, holy shit, this guy is amazing. But what that experience at least was for me was, I put para-athletes, you know, because I'm not a big sports person, so like, okay, there's the Olympics, there's the Paralympics, and I almost had those as 2 categories. But watching him on his blade, shaking his ass and doing the spins, and it really sort of made me see him as just, you know, a person, and not see the blade, you know, and not using that as the intro to defining who he was. And it wasn't so much that affected him. It had to affect me. That was the important kind of like, oh, you know, just I didn't realize I had this way of processing information before. And I think that the last leg, because again, they do challenge that a lot, and they do have people with disabilities on there, but that's not the point of them. You know, he's not the para-athlete isn't on strictly to talk about what it's like to be an athlete with missing a lower limb. He's there to dance. And the last leg it's a comedy show. It's there to be funny, and I think that those representations are a way into transcending that category of disabled or lesbian or pansexual or whatever it is, to see past that and actually see the person behind the category.
It's like when someone says to me after a gig, like, you were so inspirational to see a disabled person up there. I think it's okay. You didn't find it very funny.
Maybe not. Maybe they found it funny and inspirational.
I've done badly, or they worked into my humor, which is understandable. But when someone said, dude, you were fucking great, then I know I've had a good gig.
Right, but you're not up on stage to be inspirational, are you?
No. But now I'm on YouTube, and all my videos are monetized. If you want to watch me just because I'm inspirational, please do. I get hits.
And turn off ad blocks. Turn off all ad blocks for Ted's channel as well.
Just as long as you don't ad block.
Yeah.
You get fuck up then.
Yeah, so first of all, like, yeah, turn on the subtitles, turn off ad block. If you don't want to turn off ad block, fuck off. All this before your videos, before you start. So what's the video that you are currently working on? What's the thing that you've got in mind to do next?
I haven't planned Mondays yet. My pattern is Monday, Wednesday, Saturday. So my next immediate video will be this framed as an episode of Ask a Spike Saturday. Then tomorrow I'll start having to think about Monday's
Right.
video.
Okay. Well, yeah, that sounds about as much planning as I do. Actually, my planning is mostly feeling guilty that I haven't put out videos that I've been meaning to do. Most of my YouTube existence is feeling guilty that I haven't done things that I want to get done, as opposed to planning things out. It's like, oh, I really need to do that video on the historical Jesus where I analyze the number of times that St. Paul talks about the resurrection and the body of Jesus as evidence that he thought he was a physical person. And then I think, oh, that's going to be a lot of work. So that's it's always like the guilt of what I'm not doing. But yeah, so Mondays, Wednesdays, and Saturdays, those are your release days. So if people want to go and check it out, they'll know which days of the week to expect something from you. Anything else you want to do to plug your channel a little bit? Recent content or your most popular video? What's a good video to introduce people to you if they're first time and sense of you before you offend them?
Weirdly, about 2 months ago, I recorded me making coffee, and it works on a lot of levels because you can seriously see a disabled person doing something, how I do it, but obviously being me, I put in lots of snarky comments, and it was the first time I watched it myself, and I was fucking scared. Oh my god, I do this every morning, and I cut in lots of bits of me like poning myself. And what the fuck is going on? I'm kind of proud of that. So if you search making coffee with cerebral palsy, and of course there's my sitcom which I made few years ago that I don't think has enough views. So if you want to change that, please do.
All right, so making coffee with CP. Ted Shiress. Excellent. Well, I think we're getting on to about an hour, so if it's okay to wrap up, is there anything that you wanted to talk about before we go that we haven't had a chance to yet?
No, I think we've covered it. I suppose when I'm talking live, I get worked up and I'm already quite moist and sweaty. So
well, that's an image. You're sitting there all moist and sweaty.
Hello, lady. So I think on that note, I need a cold shower.
Right, good. Oh, Ted, I do enjoy talking with you. I've always enjoyed our hangouts. You have so many great things to say, and I definitely appreciate this. And I'm glad that we could get together and find a time to make this work.
Definitely. And remember, you can be for social justice and still be an arsehole.
Exactly. That's the motto of your channel now. We're gonna do a banner for your channel from Fiverr saying you can proof you can be for social justice and be an asshole. Yeah. Your channel is that proof. All right, well, for those of you who are watching, thanks so much for tuning in. I see we are up to like 12 viewers at some point. We're currently at 9. So for those 9 viewers, thanks so much for tuning in, considering, especially in the States, it's probably like not even, what's it, like 6 o'clock in the morning on East Coast time or 8 o'clock in the morning. So that's fantastic. Well, guys, thank you, Ted, for coming on to the channel.
Thank you for having me.
Yes. And to you, my viewers, I've been Kristi. You've been awesome. Thank you so much for your time and attention. And then that's all that's left to be said is goodbye from me and goodbye from Ted. So say goodbye, Ted. Bye.